Hey guys, tonight we're slipping behind the thick iron portcullis of a medieval castle, just in time for a siege. You won't be visiting the keep or sipping mead in the great hall. No, you're going to be stuck there with the smell and the fear and the sheer absence of indoor plumbing. The sky is low with winter clouds. Mud sticks to your boots. Behind you, a winding road snakes back toward the village you left at dawn, where the baker's daughter swore you'd be safer staying put. But wanderlust doesn't listen, does it? Not when you hear rumors of a noble hiring help before trouble starts. So here you are, trudging uphill toward stone walls older than your grandparents' ghosts, right as the horns sound in the distance. The castle gates are wide open when you arrive, last-minute merchants rushing out, a few desperate farmers begging their way in. You're just close enough to slip through when the guards bellow, and the iron portcullis slams shut behind you like a gavel from the gods. That's it. You're in, and you're not getting out anytime soon. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is, just for fun. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand just inside the courtyard, suddenly very aware that you didn't bring enough food, or blankets, or, well, anything besides a sack of tools slung over your shoulder and a half loaf of rye you plan to trade. A guard with a nose like a pickaxe shoves past you, muttering about another stray dog for the kennel. You look around. The castle isn't quite what you'd imagined. There's grandeur, sure, high towers and banners, but there's also peeling lime wash, buckets of mystery liquid, and a definite aroma of old onions and older sweat. And the people? Not knights in shining armor. Mostly surly peasants, red-eyed squires. 2 monks who look like they've been praying since last Tuesday, and a few castle servants shoving carts of salted meat and dried turnips toward the storerooms. You don't belong here. Yet here you are. By nightfall, you're assigned a space in the stables, not a stall, just some straw near a wall that smells less like horse and more like despair. You lie down anyway. The castle bell tolls once, loud and low, and the atmosphere shifts like a cloak being drawn tight. That's the bell they ring when the enemy's been spotted. You sit up. Around you, people murmur, some pray, others light candles. One boy starts crying, gets smacked by his older sister, and goes quiet. From a guard tower, a horn blares again, 3 short blasts, then silence. You hear a command shouted from the ramparts. Gates are being bolted. Someone's already pouring oil into cauldrons above the entrance, just in case. The castle is sealed. Siege protocol has begun. That night, you barely sleep. Between the horses shifting, your own growling stomach, and the creeping dread that you made a very dumb life decision, it's not exactly a 5-star stay. You're jolted awake before dawn by the sound of bell. Not the warning one this time, but the smaller rise and rot chime. Someone throws a crust of bread in your general direction. Breakfast, apparently. You chew in silence while listening to the guard shout shifts and names. You're not on any list, so you drift toward the edge of the courtyard, hoping no one notices how lost you are. Too late. You! A voice snaps. New blood. Come. You follow the voice to a squat man with a stained jerkin and a clipboard made from some poor tree's final insult. He grunts. Can you hold a broom? Or do you need a painting of one to get the idea? You nod. Congratulations. You're now part of the castle's emergency cleanup crew. Glamour? 0. Importance? Surprisingly high. Your job is to keep the inner corridors clear of mud, rot, and other substances, because nothing kills morale like slipping in a puddle of vomit while fleeing arrows. As you scrub stone floors, you overhear whispers that the besieging army is already setting up camp beyond the woods, that the Baron's daughter smuggled her lover in just before the gates closed, that someone saw a wolf, an actual wolf, on the wall last night. Or maybe it was a man who turned into a wolf. Historians still argue whether medieval folk believed in werewolves literally or just metaphorically to describe enemies with bad hair and worse hygiene. Around midday, a man in chainmail rides through the courtyard shouting news. The enemy's banners are visible on the horizon, blood red with a black boar. You ask someone what that means. Means we're screwed, he mutters. The castle has maybe enough food for a month. Water's drawn from a well, which is fine unless the enemy finds the underground stream and poisons it. That's been done before. Frequently, you make your way to the outer wall near dusk just to see it all for yourself. From up here, you can finally glimpse them, tiny figures moving like ants along the tree-line, hammering, shouting, building something. You squint. Is that a trebuchet? Already? Yep, it is. And unless someone on your side knows how to negotiate or suddenly invents cannons, you're in for a long, very hungry ride. As the sun sinks behind the hills, the castle lights its torches. You notice they're using fewer than before. Oil is precious now. So is silence. From this moment on, everything, light, food, breath, is rationed. And you're just another mouth inside these walls. You wake to shouting. Not panic shouting, not yet, just the irritated kind. Something about chamber pots being dumped too close to the bread stores. Charming. It's your second day trapped inside the castle, and the mood is already shifting. The initial rush of activity, barrels rolled, gates locked, fires lit, has slowed. What's left is waiting, the kind of slow dread that builds like a headache behind your eyes. Everyone's routine is tightening. The drawbridge hasn't budged since yesterday. No messengers have gone out. No news has come in. The courtyard, once bustling with clanging armor and stomping boots, is now filled with low murmurs and the sound of chickens being chased unsuccessfully by a child with a stick. You're summoned to help in the grain vaults today. It's not glamorous, but it gets you indoors. You follow a lanky boy named Tion down narrow spiral stairs slick with damp. Mind your head, he mutters, a second too late. Your skull meets the stone with a dull thud. Welcome to castle life. The storerooms are dark and cold, filled with sacks and barrels stacked like sleepy sentinels. Tion shows you how to weigh portions, how to mark the ledgers, how to pretend spoiled grain isn't spoiled if you scrape off the green fuzz. It's fine once you toast it, he grins. You're not sure if he's joking. You help distribute rations to the household servants first. A handful of oats here, a hunk of hard cheese there. Meat is scarce and already smells adventurous. You're told it's venison. You don't ask why it's gray. This is how the castle shifts in a siege. Time gets carved up into tiny rituals. Every hour has a job. Every bite is measured. The big questions, will the enemy attack, or will we all die, get buried beneath smaller ones, like, is this egg too soft to eat or too hard to throw at someone? At midday, the bell rings again, not the alarm. This one's for assembly. Everyone not on duty crowds into the great hall, where the Baron appears on a high wooden platform, flanked by a steward and a priest who always looks like he's smelling something foul. The Baron's speech is dramatic. He uses the word honor 7 times and cowards 5. He talks about glory, legacy, and how this castle once withstood a siege that lasted 52 blessed days. He doesn't mention that most of the population starved, and the baker died trying to make soup out of his own shoes. But hey, history is branding. You glance around the crowd. Some people nod. Others just look tired. A few exchange glances like they've heard it all before. Then comes a rationing decree. No meat for 2 days unless you're on guard duty. Bread is to be shared in quarters. Water drawn only twice daily. And this is the kicker. Ale is reserved for nobility unless you're over 50 or performing labor deemed excessively miserable. You might qualify soon. One woman sobbed softly. Her husband's on the wall, and now she can't bring him hot food. Another man scowls and mutters that his privy breaks count as labor. You don't disagree. That afternoon, you return to the courtyard and see the changes taking hold. Firewood is being stacked tighter. The blacksmith's forge has gone quiet. He's melting scrap into arrowheads now. Two young girls weave ropes in silence, their hands moving automatically, like they've done this every year since they were born. You spot something that wasn't there before. Two goats tied to the base of the well. Emergency meat. They're eating calmly, oblivious. You hope they stay that way. Later, you're asked to help secure the outer latrines. You quickly learn that this is medieval code for clean up what's overflowing. You try not to breathe. You fail. If you ever want to know what pure, unfiltered fear smells like, it's halfway between fermented onions and a dying bog. You gag. The guard supervising you gags too. It's always worse on the second day, he offers, like that's comforting. But here's the odd thing. People laugh. Not full belly laughs, but the brittle, helpless kind. Because once you've scrubbed dried feces from a floor with your tunic, what else can you do but laugh? It bonds people in a strange way. Misery makes odd comrades. That night, you find yourself beside a fire pit near the kitchens. A few others huddle there. One of the monks, the goat keeper, yes, that's his actual title, and a young woman with a face like flint who claims she once snuck wine out of the baron's cellar in a hollowed-out bread loaf. You talk about the food, the silence, the way the birds have stopped landing in the courtyard. I saw a pigeon earlier. Someone says, "No, you didn't." Someone else replies. You watch the flames crackle. One of the goats bleats in the distance, and for a second, everyone goes quiet again. Someone changes the subject. Did you know some castles kept bees in the walls? What, for honey? No, for war. They'd fling the hives down during attacks. Chaos. You raise an eyebrow. The monk nods. True. Historians still argue whether it was widespread or just one castle with really angry bees. You file that away under things I did not expect to learn during a siege. Eventually, the others drift off. You stay for a while, warming your hands, watching sparks spiral up toward a sky that refuses to show stars. You think about the road outside the walls, the one you can't see anymore, the one you could have stayed on, gone somewhere else, anywhere else. But you didn't. You're here, and this is only day 2. The lord of the castle summons you. You're not sure how this happens. One moment you're ladling oat gruel into wooden bowls and try not to look directly at a questionable stain on your sleeve, and the next a page, barely 12, with a voice still squeaking like a broken hinge, taps your shoulder and says, "The Baron wants you." You don't ask why. You just follow. The keep rises like a stone crown above the courtyard, its steps worn slick from generations of feet, its door iron-bound and oversized, clearly compensating for something. Inside, the air cools. Soot clings to old tapestries. Torches sputter along the walls. You feel suddenly very aware of your smell. You're brought into a side chamber that smells strongly of candle wax, leather, and something faintly medicinal. And there he is, the Baron himself, sitting on a heavy oak chair, one leg propped on a stool, wrapped in layers of fur and entitlement. He looks up slowly. You're the outsider, yes? The one who came in before the gates close. You nod. He nods back, as if this confirms a theory. Good. You'll help with something. What you learn over the next half hour is this. The Baron's leg is swollen. Gout likely, and he's convinced the castle is filled with spies. Not just the usual ones. Enemy spies. Possibly sorcerers. Definitely someone sabotaging his wine. You'll observe, he mutters. Move quietly. Report anything strange. Any faces you don't recognize. Anyone who hoards food or blinks too much. You glance at the steward standing nearby. His face is unreadable, but his knuckles are white on the scroll he's holding. You suspect this isn't the first time the Baron has made such declarations. You're dismissed with a wave. Report to Sister Alara for your briefing, he says. Who? You find her in the chapel, a stern woman in holy robes, who smells faintly of rosemary and judgment. So, she says, you've been appointed castle spy. You start to object, but she silences you with a look honed by years of managing both prayer and plague. It's not spying, she says. It's observing. Quietly, keeping ears open, helping morale. Right. She hands you a list of places to visit and a small pouch of dried lavender for disguise. It doesn't help. Your first stop is a library, a grand word for a room with 5 shelves and a floor that creaks in Morse code. You note who's there. A scribe copying an old ledger, 2 young men whispering in Latin, and a woman pretending to read while sneakily eating something from her sleeve. Raisins? Dried rat? You don't ask. From there, it's the armory. You spot 2 guards wrestling over a helmet borrowed without permission. You write that down. Then the servants' quarters, where tensions are high and soap is low. And finally, the Baron Solar. You're not allowed in, of course, but you linger nearby, pretending to fix a wall torch. You overhear voices, the Baron arguing with someone. Something about food stores being lower than reported. Something about the baker's numbers not adding up. You leave quickly. That evening, you bring your notes to Sister Alara. She reads them in silence, then hands them to a messenger boy without a word. You did well, she says. The Baron will be pleased. For a day, anyway. You're starting to understand that life in this castle runs not on duty, but on delicate balances, between fear and function, between order and breakdown. At dinner, if you can call a bowl of watery turnip soup dinner, you sit beside the steward. His name is Harwin, and he finally speaks to you. He likes new faces, he says, tearing stale bread in methodical bites. They haven't disappointed him yet. You ask if the Baron has always been like this. Harwin chuckles dryly. He was a lion once, war-hardened, sharp, but lion's age. And sometimes they trade claws for conspiracy. You glance around. The great hall is quieter now. Fewer candles. More eyes darting. You hear whispers about sickness. Someone in the West Tower coughing. A servant found fainting in the garden. No one mentions it directly, but you can feel it, like a draft under a door. Later, back at your straw bed near the stables, you write down everything in a scrap of parchment you've saved. Not for the Baron, for yourself, because it's starting to feel like everything, truth, trust, even time, is softening under siege, like cheese left too long on a windowsill. You can't sleep. The stars are hidden behind clouds. A distant howl breaks the quiet. Dog? Wolf? Something worse? Historians still argue whether medieval castles ever kept tame wolves for intimidation, or if that was just bardic exaggeration. You hope it's the latter. Eventually, you drift off, dreaming of staircases that never end and a nobleman with goat eyes whispering about flower theft. When you wake, there's frost on your blanket. The siege continues. So does the waiting. But now you're part of it, not just trapped in the castle, woven into its politics, its paranoia, and its deeply questionable soup. The meat smells worse today. You try to ignore it, but when a slab of something sinewy and suspicious is dropped onto the cutting board, even the cook winces. Don't look at it, she mutters. Just chop and boil. You're helping in the kitchens now. Not because you volunteered, but because you opened your mouth at the wrong time near the wrong guard who remembered that you look like you can hold a knife. So here you are, among blackened pots, sweaty apprentices, and fires that never quite stay lit. The air is humid with steam and tension. Someone drops a bowl. No one flinches. There's meat today, technically. Salted, dried, then boiled within an inch of recognition. Most of it's mutton, or at least it was. Some pieces are so riddled with gristle, they squeak. When you cut them, you ask the head cook what happens when the meat runs out. She shrugs. Pigeons, rats, shoe leather, whatever sings loudest. She's joking. Probably. You notice something odd, though. Some barrels are open with ceremony. Others, not so much. And some, marked with chalk symbols, are avoided entirely. What's in those, you ask? She glances at the barrels. Spoiled meat, moldy grain, famine bait. You blink. She wipes her hands. Therefore things get worse. And they will. It turns out the castle operates on tiers of desperation. First, the good stores, salted pork, oats, dried peas. Then the hard stuff, wormy bread, tough beans, old cheese. Then the we'd rather not section, spoiled goods, powdered marrow, and mystery stew. You help stir a pot of middle tier today. It's thick gray and smells like betrayal. Someone calls it siege chowder. You try not to laugh because it might be true. During a break, you sit near the rear exit where the firewood is stacked. A boy next to you, no older than 15, eats bread with fingers black from soot. He offers you a piece. You take it, then pause. Why does it taste sweet? He grins. Bit of sawdust in the flour makes it go further. You stare at the bread. The texture is fibrous. You swallow carefully. Historians still argue whether sawdust bread was common or just an extreme rumor passed around to frighten rebellious serfs. But you're here now, and it's very real and very chewy. The kitchens double as a gossip hub. As you scrub pans and ladle porridge, you hear everything. Which knight was found crying in the chapel, which noble woman snuck honey into her sleeve, which guard has a secret tunnel out the east wall. He doesn't, by the way. It's just a collapsed drain pipe. And always talk of the enemy. How many there are, what they want, whether they'll wait you out or burn you out. No point worrying, someone says. We're meat in a barrel, just salted enough to last. You think about that, about how the castle stone walls feel less like protection and more like a lid. By afternoon, the head cook, Matla, her name is, you learn, sends you to fetch onions from the cellar. It's dark and damp, the air thick with mildew and the stubborn, eye-watering scent of old produce. You descend with a torch, find the bins, reach for a sack, and stop. Something shifts behind the barrel. A small sound, like a sniff. You hold your breath. Their eyes, animal, watching you. A rat, huge, probably the size of a cat. It blinks, unafraid. You grab the onions and back away slowly. When you return and mention it, Matla shrugs. They're getting bold. Means they're hungry, too. That night, your portion is thin soup and a chunk of hard bread. You chew slowly. The crust is dense enough to chip a tooth. Across the courtyard, a servant retches near the well. People avoid looking. The castle physician, a man with more herbs than hope, has been brewing something that smells like boiled socks. It might be medicine. It might be tea. No one's sure. Either way, the 6th day near the west wall now. Quiet. Out of sight. During evening cleanup, you find a note tucked behind a barrel. Just a scrap. Smudged. It reads, meat missing, for barrel short. Someone lies. No signature. You burn it in the hearth before anyone sees. As you lie down in your corner near the stables, You feel something shift in the air. Not the weather, the mood. People are watching each other now, counting what they have, measuring how much others eat. The siege is no longer just outside the walls. It's inside, creeping, like mold, like rats. You close your eyes, try and pretend the straw is softer than it is. Try not to wonder what tomorrow's meat will taste like. You're woken before dawn by a boot nudging your ribs. Up, wall duty. You blink through the dark. It's the lanky guard with the crooked nose again. He tosses you a cloak stiff with old rain and points toward the nearest stairwell. You'll be on watch. Bring nothing valuable. That includes optimism. The walls are higher than you expected. Thick, uneven stones rising above the castle like jagged battlements of stubborn pride. From up here, the courtyard looks small, almost cozy. But outside, that's a different story. Beyond the walls, the enemy is spreading, tents the horizon like lichen, clustered in ranks around fires that burn low and slow. Siege towers are beginning to take shape, skeletal frameworks of timber and threat. And the worst part? It's quiet. Too quiet. You're handed a longbow and immediately hand it back. You don't want me holding that, you say. The guard chuckles and instead gives you a small brass whistle. If you see movement, blow twice. If it's urgent, 3 times. You glance over the side again. Fields trampled. Trees hacked. A pile of something unidentifiable smolders near a makeshift pit. Could be waste. Could be warning. Your shift partner, an older man named Goran, stands beside you chewing on a dried fig like it owes him money. He nods toward the woods. They're waiting, letting us starve a bit before they get creative. You ask how long he served here. Too long, he says. This place used to be busy. Markets, feasts, horses racing in the lower yard. He sighs. Now we ration oats and argue about whose turn it is to clean the pigeon coop. You ask him if the enemies ever actually breached the walls. Goran spits over the edge. Once, 60 years ago. They didn't get far. But that was before the northwest tower cracked. Wait, what? He gestures to a distant corner of the wall, moss-covered, slightly crooked. Foundations slipped after the last earthquake. You didn't hear that from me. You nod slowly, because now you're watching the field below differently, looking not just for arrows, but for opportunity. Later that morning, while you're counting clouds and pretending your fingers aren't numb, you overhear something strange. 2 young soldiers chatting near the tower stairs. One says, they saw someone waving from the east parapet last night. Thought it was a signal. The other shrugs. Could have been a loose cloth or a bored ghost. Historians still argue whether medieval sentries truly believed in ghostly watchers, or if the ghost did it was just a handy excuse for falling asleep on duty. You'd believe either right now. During your midday break, you huddle with others near a small fire in a turret. Someone's roasting an onion over a candle like it's a delicacy. You join in. It tastes sharp, smoky, surprisingly comforting. Talk turns, as it always does, to escape. Could we scale down? Someone asks. Use ropes. With what ropes? Someone else snaps. We're turning tunics into blankets. Could we bribe the enemy? With what? Dried turnip soup and one-legged goats. They laugh, quietly, but it dies down fast. Your second shift begins at sundown. The light fades in streaks of copper and bruised plum, casting long shadows that dance like phantoms across the walls. You watch one group of soldiers near the enemy camp perform drills. Another seems to be playing a game with bones. A third is digging. What are they doing, you ask? Goran peers. Trenches. Cuts off our supply lines. Stops surprise charges. Also keeps their wine from rolling away. You stare. He shrugs. Practical bastards. As night falls, torches are lit sparingly. The castle's oil stores are already stretched. Instead, you're given a candle stub and a piece of flint. Not ideal for spotting infiltrators, but great for stubbing toes. You spot something out of place just after moonrise, a flicker of movement at the tree line. You raise the whistle. 2 sharp blows. Everyone freezes. Another guard peers through a spyglass. Boar, he says finally. Real one, not their banner. Tension melts like snow under soup. Still, no one laughs. Around midnight, you switch posts with a girl from the kitchens who wears a hood so deep it could hide a goose. You offer her your candle stub. She offers you a handful of roasted chestnuts in return. It's the best trade you made all week. Descending the wall is harder than climbing it. Your legs ache. Your boots are soaked with cold air. You pass 2 guards whispering about the baker. Again, apparently he's been sneaking something from the grain vaults. Or maybe from the goat pen. Or maybe from the dead storage. You try not to think about that. Back in the courtyard, you stop briefly near the chapel. Someone's lit a row of candles inside, and the light flickers against stained glass like trapped fireflies. You enter. Sister Alara is there, arranging herbs near the altar. She glances up. Anything new from the wall? You shake your head. Good. No news means fewer bodies. She hands you a pouch of dried sage. Sleep with this near your head. Keeps the plague away. You raise an eyebrow. She smirks. It won't, but it smells better than most of the people in this castle. You leave with a half smile. Climb back into your hay-stuffed corner and pull the thin blanket over your bones. Above you, the wind groans against the stone like an old man begging to be let in. But no one's opening these walls. Not yet. Not unless something or someone breaks first. The kitchen is running out of lies. You're back there again this morning. Peeling potatoes are more sprout than starch. Chopping onions have seen better centuries. And watching as Matla the head cook scrapes mold off a wheel of cheese with the cold focus of a battlefield surgeon. There's tension in the air more than usual. You feel it in the way the apprentices move, snappier, more silent, in how the salt barrel is now locked, in how Matla whispers when she orders the stew diluted. Again, we say it's thicker, she murmurs. Tell them it's rich. Earthy. They won't know. You don't argue. Today's stew is creative. A base of boiled barley, 1 pigeon, yes, an actual pigeon, minus 2 feathers and most of its dignity, plus onions, a few sprigs of something that might be thyme, and bones from last week's roast, now on their 3rd deployment. It smells edible, barely. The line at the kitchen window stretches longer than ever. People aren't just hungry. They're hunting, eyes darting, hands twitching, ready to pounce if someone ahead gets a bigger scoop. You serve bowls while pretending not to hear the comments. This one's thicker than mine. I saw her add more to his. Why does it get meat? You offer a tired smile to each complaint, but inside you're taking notes. Because paranoia isn't seasoning, it's poison, and it's starting to flavor everything. Later, Matla pulls you aside. You're good with people, she says, which is odd considering your current soup-streaked tunic and sleep-deprived eyes. Go to the storage cellar. Check the barrels marked with red string. You ask why. Because I think someone's been skimming. And if it's who I think it is, we got bigger problems than pigeon stew. You go. The cellar is darker than before, quieter. The kind of quiet that makes you think twice about lighting a torch, like you might see something you wish you hadn't. You find the barrels. 1, 2, 3, ropes intact. The 4th, frayed, damp, and noticeably lighter. You pry it open. Grain. Not much. Less than it should be. And the top layer looks disturbed. like someone scooped it, covered it again, and hoped the castle's paranoia would hide the difference. You dig further, wrapped in cloth near the bottom. You find something that should not be there. 2 slices of dried meat tied with a silk ribbon. You don't need a master spy to figure this out. Someone is skimming from the desperate to feed someone far less desperate, someone noble, or close to it. You return to the kitchens. Show Matla. She doesn't look surprised. Told you, she says. What now? She sighs. We pretend we didn't find it. For now. Why? Because confronting a thief is fine. Confronting a powerful thief in a castle that's running out of everything? That's suicide with a ladle. Still, the rot is spreading. That evening, a loaf of bread goes missing from the prep table. Then a handful of dried plums. Then, unforgivably, a wheel of cheese Matla was saving for the midwinter feast. She doesn't shout. She doesn't even swear. She simply walks in the courtyard, raises her soot-blackened ladle like a holy relic, and declares, "If I find out who's been stealing from my pantry, I'll roast you next." No one laughs. At dinner, the mood is tense. People chew in silence. A child cries because her bowl is half empty. A man near the fire picks a fight over seating. 2 boys nearly come to blows over a crust. You hear someone mutter, "Better to starve honest than eat like a rat." But the truth? That line's starting to blur. You're not starving yet, but you're close enough to feel it in your joints. The way your limbs feel heavier. The way your thoughts move slower. The way your hunger's no longer sharp, but dull and constant, like background noise you can't turn off. You're sitting near the fire pit after cleanup, when one of the younger boys, maybe 11, pulls a folded cloth from his sleeve and shows you a bit of honeycomb. You blink. "Found it near the tower," he whispers, "hidden behind a brick. You want some?" You should say no. You take a piece. It tastes like sunlight, sweet and golden and impossible. You close your eyes, let it melt on your tongue, and in that brief moment, it's almost easy to forget you're trapped. That winter is closing in. That someone out there is building engines meant to break your world. But the moment ends. Later that night, you help scrub pots while Matla hums something low and old, a song you don't recognize. You ask her where it's from. "My mother," she says. "She used to sing it during the bad harvests. Said it kept the mice out." "Did it work?" She smirks. "No, but it kept her sane." As you dry your hands, she leans in. Word is, the barons order the food ledger sealed. Why? Because if people find out how little's left, they'll panic. You nod, because you already know. The kitchens aren't just running out of food. They're running out of stories. And stories, it turns out, are what keep people from tearing each other apart. The chapel is full of rats. Not the literal kind. Well, not yet, but the spiritual kind. You feel it the moment you walk in. The air is thick with incense and desperation. Candles gutter low. The wooden pews are packed with people muttering prayers under their breath. Eyes glassy, mouths dry. Sister Alara stands at the altar, chanting something in Latin, her voice calm and rhythmic. It might be soothing, if not for the way half the congregation is side-eyeing each other like the devil might be hiding under someone's cloak. You've been sent here this morning by Harwin the steward, who, between bites of dried apples, said, "Go see how the chapel folk are doing. Make sure they're praying for us, not against us." You're not sure what that means until you overhear the whispers. The cook's boy is cursed. He touched that dead pigeon, and now the goats won't look at him. I heard the baron's daughter talks in her sleep. Names no one recognizes. There's a ghost in the west stairwell. I swear I saw it, face all white and eyes like ink. You try to look casual as you eavesdrop, but it's not easy when people are clutching rosaries and rabbit feet in the same hand. Back near the altar, a man in ragged furs is kneeling, rocking slightly, repeating the same phrase. Blood before bread, blood before bread, blood before, until Sister Alara gently guides him up and leads him to the back room. You don't see him again. Later, while helping her sort herbs and bandages in the rectory, she finally sighs. They're slipping. The prayers. No, the minds. She glances toward the wall, where dried herbs hang like shriveled promises. Faith helps, but fear's louder. And right now, it's preaching every hour. You nod. She offers you a sprig of lavender. Chew it. Helps with nerves. You do. It tastes like soap. As you're leaving, she pulls you aside again. The rats are real, by the way. You freeze. I mean literal ones. Storage cellar. I've had 3 people report chewed sacks in the past week. Tell Harwin we'll need traps. You head to the storage vaults again, this time not to spy, but to inspect. And sure enough, holes. Not large, but precise. Like little doors carved into grain sacks. You report back. Harwin curses under his breath and makes a note. We'll assign someone. Though frankly, I'm more afraid of the 2-legged ones. You nod, then pause. How do you know the difference? He smiles thinly. The 4-legged ones don't hide bread in the mattress stuffing. That afternoon, the castle holds a prayer circle in the courtyard. Sister Alara leads it. The Baron attends, flanked by guards, his leg now swaddled so thick he walks like he's carrying a log under his robes. He makes a brief speech. God watches the faithful. He tests the righteous. He punishes a coward. Subtle. Sister Alara follows with a softer message, that suffering binds the spirit to heaven, that trials refine the soul, that no one is alone, even now. You notice, though, that several people are indeed quite alone, sitting apart, not looking anyone in the eye. Afterward, as the crowd disperses, you spot a child standing on tiptoe near the chapel door. She's stuffing something into the cracks in the wall. You edge closer. It's breadcrumbs. You crouch beside her. Why are you doing that? She doesn't flinch. To feed the chapel rats. If they eat, they won't eat us. You blink. She walks away. You check the wall. It's riddled with little holes, like someone's been feeding invisible mouths. Historians still argue whether medieval people believed in spirit vermin, rats that carried not just plague but misfortune. Some say it was a metaphor. Others say it was a warning. Back in the kitchens, the cooks are using more herbs now, not for flavor, but to mask the taste of old broth. You've developed a sense for what kind of stew it is by how much mint they throw in. The more mint, the more mystery. The Baron's daughter comes down once, escorted by a maid. She wears gloves that don't match and asks for the softest bread you can spare. Matla, without blinking, hands her the last unburnt roll. As they leave, someone mutters, "Blessed are the spoiled, for theirs is the kingdom." No one laughs. That night, you sleep near the chapel instead of the stables. You're not sure why. Maybe it's the faint smell of wax and rosemary. Maybe it's the presence of walls that don't echo with goat noises. You wait just once. A rustling sound. Close. You sit up. A rat scurries by. But for a moment, it stops, looks at you, not with fear, but almost with recognition. Then it's gone. You lie back down and whisper a prayer you don't remember learning, just in case. The latrines are worse than you imagined. You didn't volunteer for this. You were assigned rotational sanitation detail. They call it. Words that make it sound far nobler than what it is, mucking out waste trenches before they overflow into places where people are supposed to breathe. The castle's waste system is rudimentary at best. A series of chutes along the outer walls, funneled into what can only be described as an open-air pit of despair. covered loosely with planks and hay. And optimism. It's your turn today. You're handed a rusted rake and a bucket that leaks slightly and told, "Mind your footing." It's deep and hungry. You think they're joking. You hope they're joking. The smell hits first, like boiled nightmares. And then the sound. Soft plopping, buzzing flies, the occasional plunk that reminds you to keep your head turned. You work alongside a boy named Lean who hums while he scoops. Helps with the nausea, he says. You hum too. It does not help. Turns out the castle's latrines aren't just an olfactory crime. They're a security risk. Because, as Lean explains with disturbing cheer, people have been caught trying to escape through them. No one succeeded, though, he grins. Yet, you stare into the dark recesses of the tunnel beneath the pit. It leads to a culvert, which technically leads beyond the walls. If you're small and very, very desperate, you are not that desperate. Yet, still, as you work, you hear more than one voice mutter, "It'd be faster than starving." Later, after you wash your hands in cold ash and vinegar, the medieval equivalent of a sad spa day, you're summoned to the wall, not for watch duty, for digging. There's a tunnel being reinforced below the northern edge. It's not an escape route. It's a countermine. Apparently, the enemy has started digging in, literally, trying to tunnel under the walls to breach the foundation. You're helping build a secondary tunnel to intercept theirs. It's damp, close, and claustrophobic. You've never been so familiar with someone's breath in your life. Every strike of the shovel sounds too loud. Every pause is thick with held breath. "Listen," someone whispers. You do, and you hear it, a faint knock, rhythmic, someone digging, but not from your side, from theirs. Historians still argue whether medieval siege tunneling was common or just a rare tactic. The evidence is patchy, burned-out tunnels, collapsed trenches, but you're inside one now, and it's very real. Keep digging, the overseer says. You dig. Hours pass. You lose track of time. Dirt under your nails, in your mouth. Someone near you swears they saw a hand burst through the earth once, years ago, during a siege in the south. You choose to believe he's exaggerating. Eventually, you're pulled out, shaking and filthy. You collapse on a stone bench near the smithy, too tired to move. A bucket of water is passed around. You sip. It tastes like tin in triumph. A guard walks by and mutters, "If they tunnel under the east wall, we'll all be crushed in our sleep." Cool. Thanks. Back in the courtyard, people are quieter now. Less arguing. More watching. You hear that someone found a rat floating in the well this morning. They fished it out, boiled the water twice, then drank it anyway. What else can you do? The Baron has issued a new decree. Anyone caught hoarding food will be put in the stocks. Publicly, you see the stocks being cleaned and oiled. Nothing says functional justice like a well-maintained humiliation bench. That night, you return to the chapel steps to rest. Sister Lara walks by, her robe dusted with flour. "You got something on your cheek," she says, pointing. You wipe. It's mud, or something worse. She sits beside you, sharing a crust of bread so stale it clicks when you break it. "When I was a novice," she says, "I thought suffering was a sign of grace. That pain brought you closer to heaven. And now," she chews thoughtfully, "now I think heaven prefers clean robes and silence." You ask if she thinks the siege will break soon. "Something will," she says. "Maybe not the wall, maybe not the people, but something." You nod. Later, lying half asleep, you think about that tunnel under the pit. How it's real. How it leads out. How it's disgusting and dangerous, and possibly your only way out someday. Then you remember Lean's warning. No one's made it through. You hope you never find out why. You finally see them. Not sketches in your imagination, not distant rumors, but real, living, breathing, sharpening blade kind of real. The enemy, it starts with a cry from the tower. Not an alarm this time. Just a long, low call, eyes east. You scramble up the steps, two at a time, your boots slipping on dew-slick stone. By the time you reach the battlements, half the garrison is already leaning over the wall. There they are, spread across the hills, framed by fog and morning frost. The enemy encampment stretches like a waiting storm. Tents of crimson and black. Banners with snarling boars, stiff in the cold wind. Campfires smoking like lazy serpents. They're not moving fast, because they don't need to. They brought siege engines. You see them clearly now. A tall trebuchet with arms like a giant's elbow, and a smaller catapult being assembled beside it, with creaking men swearing. The sight makes your stomach dip. You were hoping for bluff, or maybe a bluffing army. These men did not come to wait politely. They're settling in. Goran mutters beside you. Means we're in for the long haul. Why don't they just attack? He doesn't even look at you. Because they're smart. Siege warfare isn't about charging gates and swinging swords. It's a slow grind, a waiting game. The enemy lets time and hunger do the killing. Swords are just punctuation. You ask who they are. The Black Boar, someone says behind you, mercenaries, paid by Lord Virak. He's got a claim to this castle, thinks he's owed it. Is he? Historians still argue. Below, the enemy makes no attempt to hide their activity. They know you're watching. They want you to see. Soldiers stretch. Some play dice. One carves meat off a spit, casually, like this is a country picnic. There's even a dog trotting between the tents, tail wagging. You hate that dog. Still, the real danger isn't their numbers or their machines. It's their patience. By mid-morning, a messenger from the Baron arrives at the wall with parchment. A message is to be delivered to the enemy, not by hawk, not by fire signal, by you. Wait me, you ask. The messenger shrugs. You've got no titles, no banners. They're less likely to kill you. Less likely. That's not the same as not likely. You're given a white flag, a satchel of food in case they detain you, and a formal letter sealed in wax. Harwin pulls you aside before you leave. This isn't diplomacy, he says. It's theater. Just observe. Count how many cooks they have, how many fires. Look for movement. Right, just a casual stroll across a death field with homework. You pass through the Sally Port, a narrow, reinforced door built low in the wall. The gate shuts behind you with a sound you'll remember forever, like a throat clearing. Final, outside the walls, the world feels wider and more exposed. Every step on the frosty grass crunches too loudly. You keep the flag high. You keep your eyes low. You keep repeating to yourself, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. At 100 paces, someone shouts. At 150, they approach. 4 riders. One holds a spear, loosely. The other 3 carry nothing more than indifference. You stop. Hands up. A man dismounts. His armor is piecemeal, black leather and old chainmail. His smile, however, is newer. Well now, he says, courier or bait? Courier, you say, quickly, holding out the sealed scroll. He eyes it, then you, and if it's poison parchment? I'm not paid enough for poison. He snorts, takes the letter and opens it, reads, laughs, crumples it. Tell your baron he can keep his wine. We have ours. Better vintage, less desperation. You nod, and tell him, the man adds, leaning in, that his daughter's fiancé rides with us now. Says she never liked stew anyway. You blink. That part was not in the script. He mounts again. You can go. You turn, too fast, and walk. Then run, flag waving wildly. You don't stop until the sally port opens again and swallows you whole. Inside, they swarm you for news. They laughed at the offer. You report breathlessly, and they mention the Baron's daughter. Silence. Harwin mutters, "Well, that'll light the fire." The Baron's rage arrives an hour later. Shouted commands. A slam goblet. A servant gets slapped for delivering cold wine. The daughter is nowhere to be found. Later, at supper, the news is already twisted. They're bringing trebuchets. Someone says, "They've got Greek fire," says another. "They're poisoning the wind," someone whispers. You sit quietly, chewing stale crust, feeling the cold settle deeper into your bones. Because now the enemy has a face, and it smiled. The night watch is worse than the day. Not because of danger, though there's plenty of that, but because of imagination. During the day, you see the enemy. During the night, you invent them. You've been assigned to the midnight shift on the east wall. For hours of pacing, peering, and pretending not to notice your fingers going numb. The guard captain, an older woman named Brina with the patience of a dead tree, hands you a torch and a pointed stick. Use the stick if they climb the wall. She says, use the torch if they don't. You stare at her, wave it around. Makes it look like there's more of us than there are. Right. Bluffed by flame. You head up to your post. The wind cuts through your cloak like it's personal. The torch flickers in the breeze, sending erratic shadows dancing over the stone. You set it in a crevice and begin your pacing. 1 step, 2, turn, back again, over and over until time becomes a loop. Below, the countryside is a smear of shadows. The enemy's camp is a line of distant, low-burning fires, red eyes in the dark. They don't move. They don't need to. They've already moved enough. Behind you, the castle is mostly asleep. A few torches flicker in the windows of the keep. Somewhere, a baby cries. Somewhere else, a goat bleats once and goes silent. You try not to think about that. You hear rustling. You freeze. It's nothing, just a rag flapping on a broken pole. You laugh softly at yourself, then stop laughing when you realize the rag is damp with something. Red. Probably wine. Hopefully, a figure approaches. Just another guard, his face hidden in the glow of his own torch. You nod. He nods back. You don't speak. Silence is part of the ritual now. After an hour, you're allowed to swap out your torch. There's a basket of unlit ones kept behind a shielded nook in the wall. You light the new one and jab it toward the battlements, making sure the flame is visible from the enemy's line of sight. You think they're counting? You mutter to no one. They are, says Brina, reappearing from the dark like a ghost in boots. But so are we. She hands you a strip of dried meat. Don't chew too loud. Echoes. You sit together in silence, gnawing. After a while, she speaks. They burned fake fires last week. On our side. What? In the woods. A line of torches, visible from here, just for one night. Made us think they were circling. Were they? She shakes her head. Just theater. But it worked. Sent the young guards into fits. You nod slowly. This is how it works. Fear by suggestion. Movement by shadow. Last siege I survived. Brina says, we started leaving armor out at night. Helmets on poles. Make it look like we had more men. Even gave them names. Did it help? She smirks. Made us feel less alone. You watch the torchlight bounce off the distant trees. Somewhere out there, someone is watching you watch them. You wonder if they're also cold. Later, you're alone again. Brina has moved to the south wall. Your torch is burning lower now. You raise it, hoping the flare looks confident, not desperate. You catch yourself shivering and begin to pace faster. Then movement, a shape at the edge of the field. Low, slow, you raise the torch high. Nothing. Then the shape lifts its head. Two eyes catch the light. A deer, emaciated, sniffing the air. It stands there for a full minute before disappearing back into the trees. You lower the torch. Your heart is hammering like a drum in a drowning ship. Later, you find a piece of parchment tucked under a loose stone on the inner wall. No one saw who placed it. It reads, "Lights flickered twice. Same place, same time, third night running." You pass it to Brina. She reads it, grunts, and tosses into the fire bucket. You want to ask if she's worried, but you don't. Instead, you finish your shift in silence, tracing your route in the same 20 paces. One set of footsteps where there used to be many. One flame where there used to be 5. The cold creeps deeper. The stars are thin and mean tonight. You catch yourself watching the shadows on the trees more than the wall below. By the time the bell tolls the end of your shift, your hands are stiff and your back is sore. You descend the wall like someone older than you are. Back in the courtyard, a brazier has been lit near the stables. A few guards warm their hands around it, faces blank. No one speaks. Someone passes around a skin of watered wine. It tastes like regret and ash. Brina joins you briefly. "We'll rotate torches tomorrow," she says. "Change the pattern. Keep them guessing." "Does it matter?" She nods. "Everything matters now." You try to sleep, but the wind has learned to whisper. It sounds like your name. You pull the blanket tighter and think of the fake fires, of eyes in the dark, of someone somewhere counting torches just like you. You're summoned to the Lady's Tower. That's not a euphemism. It's a literal tower, tall, cold, and shaped like a question mark on the edge of the keep, with windows that rarely open and doors that only swing wide when someone important decides they need be seen. You're escorted by a servant who refuses to speak, which is always a good sign. Inside, the tower smells like dried roses and old parchment. The air is warmer, perfumed faintly with lavender and something less floral, wine maybe, or defiance. The Lady Avellini sits near the hearth, wrapped in a velvet robe the color of spilled ink. She doesn't rise. She doesn't need to. "You're the one they keep sending into trouble," she says, sipping from a goblet. "I admire that." You nod cautiously. Try and keep your boots from leaving muddy prints on the embroidered carpet. "I've asked for you," she continues, "because I require honesty, and I'm told you're not important enough to lie well." She gestures for you to sit on a bench by the fire. The cushion is thinner than expected. "Tell me," she says, "what's the truth of things outside this tower?" No riddles, no steward-filtered gossip. So you tell her about the thinning rations, the rats, the digging, the torch rotations and whispered letters. You watch her expression closely. She listens, nods once, pours more wine. "Good," she says. "Now I know what the Baron won't admit." You hesitate. "Why me?" She smiles, and it's not warm. "Because I've already tried everyone else." She stands, moves toward a tapestry that covers one wall. Behind it is a narrow slit in the stone, a hidden window. You look through it. It faces the enemy camp. "They're not moving yet," she murmurs. "They're waiting for something." You wonder aloud what it is. "Despair," she says simply, "or a traitor, whichever comes first." You sit in silence. The fire crackles. Her eyes don't leave the horizon. Then she turns to you again. "Would you betray this place if you thought it would save you?" The question lands like a drop sword. You open your mouth, close it, and settle on, "I don't know." She nods, as if that's the right answer, or the only honest one. She offers you a small parcel, wrapped in cloth, warm. Bread, she says. The good kind. Take it. Tell no one. You do, because saying no to her feels like stepping off the battlements. As you leave the tower, the door shuts behind you with a soft click, like the final line in a confession. Back in the courtyard, life feels grittier somehow. Your boots drag through the mud. A boy walks past carrying a bucket of fish bones. No fish, just bones. Someone's drawn a crude sketch of the Baron on the wall near the latrines. His head shaped like a turnip, a crown of spoons. You hear that the Baron has started locking his wine casks, that his daughter hasn't been seen since the envoy returned, that someone found a letter under the chapel altar addressed to my faithless lover. You tuck your parcel of bread under your tunic and say nothing. Later, during supper, someone mentions that the Lady Avelina used to be betrothed to Lord Virac, the same one now laying siege. Is that true, you ask. Depends who you ask, someone replies. Historians still argue whether the siege is a matter of land pride or love turned violent, or maybe all three. You begin to suspect that truth here is like soup, thin, hot, and always a little off. That night, you pass by the lady's tower again. No lights, no guards, just the wind curling around its stones like a whisper that refuses to rest. You bite into the bread she gave you. It's warm, soft, slightly sweet. You eat it slowly. Then you lick the crumbs from your fingers and pretend you don't feel compromised. It begins with a cough. Just one, a dry little thing in the corner of the chapel during morning prayers. No one notices at first. You wouldn't either, if not for the way Sister Allaire flinches. Later, it's another cough, deeper, from the kitchens, then one from the barracks, then from a child, barely old enough to speak, doubled over beside the goat pan. By noon, it's everywhere. You're tasked with helping the infirmary today, which is a little like being handed a leaking bucket and told to save a ship. The castle's hospital is a curtained-off room in the west wing, heavy with the smells of sweat, garlic, and panic. A dozen cots line the stone floor. Most are already full. The physician, Master Quent, a man who smells permanently of boiled mint, grabs your arm the moment you enter. Do not touch your face, he warns. Do not touch theirs. He hands you rags, bandages, and a handful of herbs that look suspiciously like moss. What is it, you ask? He hesitates. Then, too calmly, something old and something angry. You blink. That's not a diagnosis. It's the best kind, he says. It doesn't argue. What's spreading is fever. Fast, hot, relentless. It starts in the chest, then climbs the throat. Sweat follows, then shivering. Then, if you're lucky, sleep. If you're not, it ends with a stillness, so sudden it takes the room a minute to notice. You're told to carry water, change sheets, boil linens, avoid eye contact. By evening, 6 more people are brought in. You recognize one, Gorin, the old wall guard. He doesn't speak when you lay a blanket over him, just stares at the ceiling, whispering something in a language you don't know. Someone tries to leave. A young man, hacking violently, tries to sneak out the postern gate with a bag of apples. He doesn't make it far. The guards don't stop him. His own body does. They drag him back in silence. A pale boy asks you if this is plague. The plague. You want to say no. You want to tell him plague has fleas and boils and rats swarming like shadows. But you remember the rats. Instead, you say, it's a bad cold. He nods, believes you. Maybe you believe you. By the next morning, Sister Allaire is burning incense in every corridor. The Baron issues a proclamation that anyone showing symptoms must isolate near the West Tower. For their safety, he says. And hours. The West Tower becomes a quiet place. Too quiet. You hear rumors that the physician's assistant dropped dead mid-prayer, that someone saw blood on the walls, that the rats are moving in patterns, circles, even rows. You try not to listen. Historians still argue about what illnesses swept through castles during prolonged sieges. Some say dysentery. Some say typhoid. Some whisper stranger names. Fever spirits, curses, divine cleansing. What matters now is that people are afraid. And you can smell it in the hallways. You spot the Lady Avellini again, briefly, standing at her tower window. She's wearing a veil. That wasn't there before. Harwin pulls you aside in the corridor. He looks pale. "I need you to help carry something," he says. You follow him to the old storehouse, where a handful of guards are waiting. Covered with a tarp are 3 bodies. None are bleeding. All are still. "We can't bury them," he says quietly. "Ground's frozen. We can't burn them. Not enough wood." You ask what the plan is. "Stone cellar. Behind the ale vault. It's cool, dry, and locked." You help move them. Later, someone asks why you smell like rosemary and ash. You say it's the soap. There is no soap. That night, the kitchen is half-staffed. Matla isn't there. You don't ask why. Dinner is thin broth and nothing else. You hear more coughing in the barracks. No one mentions it. No one speaks above a whisper now. You sit by the chapel steps again. Sister Alara joins you, her hands red from scrubbing, her voice soft. "This is the part people don't write about," she says. "Not the heroics. The waiting. The knowing." You ask if she's scared. She nods. "I've buried 4 today. One didn't look older than you." You glance at her. "Will it stop?" She shrugs. "Everything stops. Eventually." You lie down that night with a cloth over your face. Just in case. You dream of the castle coughing. Its stones shaking, windows weeping, towers crumbling one by one like rotten teeth. When you wake, your throat is dry. But not sore. Not yet. It arrives with a thud. Not a knock. Not a voice. A thud, low, heavy final. It echoes across the courtyard in the gray light of morning, silencing even the roosters, who apparently decided there's no point trying to outscream a siege. You're on your way to the kitchen when it happens. The sound turns everyone's heads. You follow the shuffle of boots toward the main gate, where the guards are already gathering. At the center of the courtyard lies something large, misshapen, wrapped in canvas and rope. It looks like someone tried to gift wrap a very dead elephant. Harwin arrives, curses under his breath, and gestures to the guards to cut the bindings. You're not sure what you expect. You do not expect a horse skull, but that's what it is. A horse's skull, hollow-eyed and yellowed, jaws bound shut with iron wire. Stuffed in its mouth is a rolled parchment and a handful of what looks like flower petals. You're told to stand back as Harwin unrolls the message. His hands shake only a little. Let the bones remind you, the siege has patience. Beneath that, a sketch. The castle, cracked open, flames everywhere. Someone mutters, "Poetry's improved." But no one laughs. The Baron orders the skull burned, the ashes scattered, the parchment sealed. But the image stays with you, flaring behind your eyes every time you blink. The enemy has stopped sending messengers. Now they send messages. Within the hour, the trebuchet launches again. This time, rocks. They're not huge, just enough to smash tiles, shatter a window. The worst damage is a wall crack and a very unlucky goat. But the point isn't destruction. It's rhythm, one every hour. Relentless. Thump. Pause. Crack. Like a war drum. Someone says, you can feel it in your ribs. Later that day, You're sent to the top of the north wall with Brina to assess the damage. As you walk the ramparts, you see how precise the strikes have become. They're not trying to bring the wall down. They're testing it, looking for the weakest point. They'll find it, Brina says flatly. They always do. She gestures to a section near the old latrine chute, recently patched, poorly. We have a week. Maybe. You nod, ask if anyone's fixing it. She smirks. With what? The castle's masonry stores ran out last month. The blacksmith has been melting horseshoes for arrowheads. And the last decent carpenter died during latrine tunnel duty. A phrase no one wants on a headstone. Later, you help dig through rubble in the lower hall. A young girl lost her doll under a collapsed beam. She doesn't cry. Just waits, arms crossed, eyes steady. You find it eventually. Half burned. She takes it anyway. You feel like she should be given something better, but there's nothing better left. In the great hall, the Baron calls a meeting. Sort of. It's more of a performance. He stands, cloaked in wolf fur, staff in one hand, wine goblet in the other. His speech is grand. Righteous, vaguely unhinged. They fling bones, we throw back fire. They mock our walls, but our hearts are granite. They dig holes, we build legends. It sounds impressive until the goblet slips from his hand and rolls down the steps with a soft clink, clink, clink. No one moves to pick it up. Later, in the kitchen, Matla whispers that she once saw him weep over a spilled pear tart. That man, she says, was not meant for hunger. You help stir the stew. Tonight's offering is mostly turnip water and crushed barley. No meat, no salt, not even the dubious spices from the ladies' tower pantry. As you ladle the bowls, you notice someone slipping extra portions to a child. You recognize the woman. She's the one who stitched the Baron's banners last month. You don't stop her, but you do hear someone behind you mutter, "She takes too much." It begins like that. You start hearing it more. She takes too much. He eats too well. They don't work hard. By dusk, someone finds a storage room broken into, the door smashed, the shelves ransacked, for loaves missing. A single, mocking bite left behind in the middle of the floor. The Baron is furious. He declares an inquisition, posts guards by the vaults, demands public confessions. But no one confesses. Instead, someone paints a pig on the wall outside the main keep, wearing a crown, holding a ladle. That night, the trebuchet strikes again. This time, it's not a rock. It's a bundle of rags. And inside, a human hand, wrapped in ribbon. You don't sleep. No one does. They call it the trial by bread. Not officially, of course. Officially, it's an internal audit of stores and fairness. But no one buys that. The moment the Baron announces a ration review, everyone knows what's coming. Public shame, loud accusations, maybe stocks. Maybe worse. You're summoned to help with the counting. Not because you're trusted, because you're unaffiliated. You don't belong to the castle household. You don't serve directly under the Baron or the steward. You scrub latrines and stirred stew, but politically you're clean. Harwin hands you a wax parchment ledger and points toward the storehouses. Count everything, he says. Flour, grain, oil, beans, salt, cheese, even the bad cheese, especially the bad cheese. So you count. The flour sacks are fewer than last week. The grain barrels look half empty, but have been fluffed to seem full. One wheel of cheese is missing. The dried meat is gone. Not used. Vanished. You say so. Harwin closes his eyes and sighs. He's going to love that. The Baron does not, in fact, love that. That evening, in the flickering light of the great hall, he stages what can only be called a pageant of suspicion. He sits high on the dais, his leg propped up like a prop, flanked by Sister Alara and a very nervous steward. Before him stands a line of accused: the banner stitcher who shared stew, the boy who found honeycomb, 2 kitchen staff, and, strangely, a monk who barely speaks and only eats boiled cabbage. Someone, the Baron announces, is undermining the sanctity of our stores. He holds up a slice of bread, thin, cracked, slightly too smooth. Do you see this? This is not pure flour. This is deception. This is theft. The room murmurs. You glance at Matla, who stands rigid, arms folded. She said nothing since the missing meat was reported. You know she's furious, but her eyes give nothing away. The Baron continues. We have evidence that sawdust has been added to the flour. Sawdust? You would feed this to your children? Someone in the back mutters, better than rat. A guard glares but doesn't move. One by one, the accused are questioned. No one confesses. The stitcher weeps. The boy stares at his feet. The monk blesses himself and whispers something about wheat and worms. The Baron demands names. No one offers any. That's when he pulls out the loaf. A full one, perfectly shaped, golden crust, unburnt, real. This, he thunders, was found hidden in a storeroom, wrapped in silk, atop a stack of robes. You know what that means. Lady Avellini's robes. He doesn't say her name, but the silence screams it. Someone coughs. Someone else whispers. You catch only the words favoritism and she always ate better. Sister Alara speaks then, softly. We do not win wars by tearing each other apart. The Baron ignores her. He declares that the bread will be divided equally, that all suspects will be kept under watch, that no more hidden stores will be tolerated. Then he bites the loaf. The room inhales as one. He chews. He frowns. Too much rosemary, he mutters, and tosses it aside. Later, you find Matla behind the kitchen, arms elbow deep in dough, lips pressed tight. He's hunting ghosts, she says. There's no more meat, and he wants someone to blame. You nod. She hands you a crust. No sawdust in this one, just despair. You eat anyway. News spreads fast. By morning, everyone's suspicious. People count each other's bites. A girl is accused of hoarding when someone sees her wrap her crusting cloth for later. She's dragged to the courtyard and questioned. She says nothing. Sister Alara begs for mercy. Harwin intervenes. The girl is released, but not before someone spits at her feet. Better a thief than a liar, someone hisses. You walk past the storeroom that afternoon and see the door has been nailed shut. Inside, the scent of flowers still lingers. Later, near the chapel, you find a torn piece of parchment wedged behind a brick. It reads, He eats meat every night. I saw it. Ask the boy. You don't know who he is, but you have guesses. That evening there's no stew, just broth. Brina sits beside you near the fire pit. She pokes at the embers and mutters, You know what they used to do during sieges? What? Bake trial loaves. One with grain, one with stone powder. Feed them to dogs. See which lives. You nod. We don't have dogs. She shrugs. Then I hope your teeth are strong. That night you dream of bread, loaves with teeth. Crust that whisper. You wake hungry, and not entirely sure if you're the thief or the trial. It starts with a missing guard, not one of the important ones. Just a quiet man named Drone who usually covered the mid-wall patrol. He wasn't well-liked, but he was reliable, stolid, wore the same expression whether facing a spilled chamber pot or a noble's drunken tantrum. So when he doesn't show up for his rotation, no one panics. At first, probably asleep, someone says. Probably drunk, says another. By midday, he's still gone. By evening, people stop guessing. And then the second one goes missing. This time it's Let, a younger guard. Too loud, too brave. She's last seen heading toward the lower cellar to check the oil reserves. She never returns. Now people are worried. Guards start walking in pairs. Doors are locked earlier. The Baron gives a speech about enemies within and divine retribution. It does not help. Sister Alara pulls you aside. This is how it begins, she says, not with battle, with whispers. Harwin assigns you to assist in the storeroom patrols. You're handed a torch, a list of supply chambers, and the worst part, a partner. It's a boy named Kel. Nervous hands, crooked smile, breath that smells faintly of spoiled onions. But he's sharp enough to say, if we see anything weird, we don't chase it. Agreed. You spend the afternoon checking rooms. Grain? Counted. Oil? Low. Rope? Gone. That's new. By the fifth storeroom, you both stop pretending this is normal. Why rope? Kel mutters. You shrug. Climbing? Binding? Hanging? He doesn't respond. You reach the sixth room. It's small, damp, empty, except for a streak of something on the wall. Dark, sticky. You don't touch it. That night, they find Drone in the old wine vault, dead. No wounds, no sign of struggle. Just cold, eyes wide open, jaw locked. The Baron calls it natural causes. Harwin doesn't comment. Sister Alara says a prayer. Brina whispers he was afraid. The next morning, Led's body is found in the pig trough. Only there are no pigs. And she's missing a hand. That changes everything. The castle locks down tighter. No one walks alone. The lady's tower is sealed, its windows shuttered. The chapel becomes a sanctuary in the literal sense. Sister Alara declares it holy ground and refuses to let anyone with blood on their hands enter, which rules out about half the castle. You're pulled into a meeting with Harwin, Brina, Alara, and Matla. They talk in low voices. They don't use names. We need to know who, Matla says, before the wrong someone ends up in the fire. There's no sign of forced entry, Harwin points out. So either the killer has keys or a face no one questions. Brina snorts. Too many of those around. You offer what you know. The missing rope. The streak on the wall. The figure you thought you saw near the east tower 2 nights ago. Too fast, too silent. Alara listens, then says, it's not the enemy. You wait. It's us. You leave the meeting with one clear instruction. Watch. Report anything unusual, even if it feels small, especially if it feels small. That evening, you're on torch rotation when Kel grabs your arm. Come. Quiet. He leads you to the northwest stairwell. The cold one. The one no one uses unless the other stairs are blocked. You crouch behind a barrel. Footsteps. Then a cloaked figure, carrying something. You hold your breath. It's not a weapon. It's a sack. Heavy, damp. They disappear down the stairwell. You wait 5 full minutes before moving. Down the stairs. Into the gloom. You find the sack left at the bottom step. You open it. Inside, meat. Salted. Cut. Human. Kel vomits behind you. You close the sack. That night, the Baron does not make a speech. But the chapel bell rings 3 times. That's the signal for death. In the early hours of morning, a fire breaks out in the lower corridor. By the time it's put out, 2 storage rooms are gone. With them, the remaining rope, 3 water skins, and a ledger. You don't need to read it. You already know what's missing. That night, Kel disappears. You find his boot near the grain sacks. Just the boot. The castle is quieter now. Too quiet. Even the rats are gone. A white flag flaps in the wind. Not yours this time. It hangs from a spear just outside arrow range, staked into the frostbitten earth like an insult. The fabric is clean, unstained. Hopeful, even, you spot it first from the east wall, where you've been dozing through a miserable dawn shift. For a moment, you think you're dreaming. But then the guard beside you squints and mutters, "They want to talk." Word spreads fast. Too fast. Within the hour, a circle forms around the gate. The Baron arrives late, limping. Robes askew, eyes wild with fatigue or wine, or both. He demands a volunteer to carry the response. No one moves. You should have looked down. Looked busy. Instead, your name is called. Again, you're handed a white strip of cloth and a scroll. It's not sealed this time. You ask what it says. No surrender, the Baron growls, but politely, right. You exit the gate alone, again. This time feels worse. There's no tension in the air, just a sort of hollow quiet, like the siege itself is tired of waiting. At the halfway point, a rider approaches. Same man as before. Leather armor. Half smile like he's already guessed your every thought. No wine today? He asks. No corpse messages? You shoot back. He laughs. Not my idea. The bone was dramatic, I'll admit. You hand him the scroll. He schemes it, sighs, and tucks it into his saddlebag. I assume the answer is no. It's a firm maybe, depending on your tone. You reply. He snorts again, then leans forward. Tell me something, he says. How bad is it in there? Really, you don't answer. You're all boned behind the wall, aren't you? He continues. Scraping soup out of buckets, drinking Ratwell water, pretending to sleep while wondering if the coughing stops. He's not wrong, but you say nothing. He shifts, voice lower now. This ends, you know? One way or another. Starvation, fire, breach. There are no other outcomes. Why the flag, then? To give your lord one last chance to bow. He flicks the reins. You won't get another. You watch him ride off. His horse moves like it's bored. Back inside, the Baron listens without expression. He doesn't comment on the threat. He doesn't ask for a new plan. Instead, he calls for a council. The Lady Avellini arrives with her veil up. Harwin, pale and gaunt, follows with a map under one arm. Sister Alara joins, smelling faintly of ash and rosemary. You're allowed to stand near the door, close enough to hear, not close enough to speak. Harwin lays out the options. Hold out and pray for snow to break their supply lines, attempt to sally through the Northwoods, or parley. At that, the room stiffens. A sign of weakness, the Baron scoffs. A sign of reality, says Alara, surprisingly sharp. Avellini speaks for the first time. I suggest a ruse. Parley to buy time. Send someone low-ranking. Someone who listens well. All eyes drift to you. Of course. This time, it's different. You're given no scroll. No message. Just a task. Go to their camp. Speak plainly. Ask questions. Report back. And whatever you do, don't agree to anything. You don't like the way Avellini says that last part. They open the postern gate near dusk. No torch. No escort. You walk under a gray sky toward the enemy camp. It smells of firewood and roasted meat. The first thing you notice? The people. There are a lot of them. Not just soldiers. Camp followers, cooks, stable hands. You even see a child chasing a dog near a cart stacked with firewood. There, comfortable, the tent you're led to is large. Warm inside. The man from before, Commander Rowell, greets you with wine. You're early, he says. Eager to defect? I'm eager to survive, you reply. Then let's be honest. And you talk. He tells you the truth, or a version of it. The siege could end tomorrow, he says. They have everything ready, but it's more fun to wait. You ask why? To let the enemy eat itself, he replies. No one fears a castle, but they do fear the madness it traps. He knows about the deaths, the bread, the missing. You don't ask how. He leans closer. I'll make you an offer. You freeze. Don't speak. Just listen. He places a folded note in your hand. You'll know when to read it. Then he waves you away. You return under cover of dusk. No one sees the note disappear under your belt. Back in the keep, Avellini meets you in silence. She studies your face. Did he offer you anything? You lie. No. She stares, then nods. You retreat to your quarters. Light a candle. Wait until the shadows are long. Then you read the note. It says, when the gates open, stand clear. Don't look back. And now you understand. He's not asking you to betray anyone. He's telling you it's already begun. It begins with a sound you've never heard before. Not the drums. Not the crash of a stone. Not even the clang of steel. It's the creak of the inner gate being opened from the inside. You're still waking when it happens. Barely upright. Still chewing on the last bite of dried oat cake. Try to decide whether to start the day in the kitchens or just pretend to be useful somewhere else. Then the shout comes. To arms. The gate. You drop everything. Run. By the time you reach the courtyard, the place is chaos. Guards are screaming, weapons half-drawn. Harwin is red-faced and out of breath, waving his arms. Someone's firing arrows. Inward. You don't see a battle yet, but you feel one coming. You push forward, and then you see it. The outer gate. It's open. Not all the way. Just enough. Enough to let one cart through. And behind it, 4 enemy soldiers. Inside the walls. They're dragging someone. A man. Bleeding. Laughing. Someone opened the gate. The breach wasn't from without. It was from within. The cart's driver is already dead. A crossbow bolt buried in his throat. But the others are alive, armed and fast. You watch as 2 guards fall before anyone truly reacts. Panic sets in like a fire through dry hay. Then the shouting stops. The Baron arrives, late, robed, furious. He demands to know who opened the gate. No one answers, but all eyes slowly turn to the lady's tower. She isn't at her window. She isn't anywhere. The Baron sends 5 men to the tower. For come back. Avellini is gone. Her room ransacked. Her veil left behind, draped over the windowsill like a final sigh. The map table in her chamber has been scraped clean, except for a note, written in careful, poised script. You should have let me choose my war. The Baron roars, not like a man betrayed, like a man humiliated. His voice shakes the rafters. He throws goblets. He demands retaliation. But there's nothing to strike. The enemy soldiers inside, dead or captured. The gate, resealed, but the damage is done. Trust, already cracked, shatters. Everyone is a suspect now. Someone starts pointing fingers. She was fed better. Remember the bread? Who helped her disappear? Who else spoke to the enemy? You find yourself shrinking into corners. Someone knows you went to the enemy camp. No one says it, but the glances linger longer now. The silences around you are thicker. Sister Alera tries to calm things. She speaks of unity, of surviving together, of not falling into the trap of betrayal. But even she looks tired. Even she doesn't meet your eyes. That night, the castle patrols double. Every storeroom is relocked. Every sleeping chamber searched. Brina pulls you aside near the battlements. She was planning this. She says, all of it. You nod. She said the enemy was waiting for a traitor or despair. She gave them both. Brina exhales through her nose. There's more. The night before, a barrel went missing from the blacksmith cellar. Not food, not weapons. What then? Pitch. You blink. Fire? Brina nods once. She's not done. That night, the castle is silent. Too silent. No music. No laughter. Not even the usual sobbing behind the chapel walls. Just pacing guards and locked doors. And torches, burning lower than usual. At midnight, you wake to the smell. Smoke. You leap up, run toward the scent. Not from the kitchens, not from the fire pit. It's the library. Someone set it alight. The books, the records, the maps, gone. The flames catch fast, old vellum curls and crackles. Scrolls turn to ash midair. People try to say what they can, but the walls are too dry. The fire climbs like ivy. You see a figure dart into the smoke, robe drawn, coughing. Harwin. He doesn't come back out. By dawn, the library is gone. The ash floats in the air like black snow. The Baron does not come out of his chambers. Someone says he's drunk. Someone says he's dead. Someone else says he fled to the latrines. All of it might be true. No one sees Avellini. But in the ashes of the library, someone finds a scrap of parchment, not yet burned, just a single phrase. Open the gates, or the walls will fall. You look around at the faces in the courtyard. None of them know who to trust, including you, especially you. You wake to screaming. Real full body, blood in the throat screaming, not the bad dreams kind, not the hunger moans. This is panic, alive and raw. You bolt upright. There's firelight flickering against a stone above you. You smell pitch, smoke, sweat, and yes, fear, the kind that sticks to your skin. You run before your boots are fully on. Outside, the courtyard is a painting of chaos. Flames licking the chapel roof, black smoke pouring from the old storehouses. People running with buckets that are mostly empty, guards dragging sacks, not food, but of anything not yet burned. You don't know where to go first. Then you hear the horn, 3 long blasts. The signal you've never heard until now. The wall has been breached. You move. People are shouting for weapons, for water, for prayers. Someone is screaming for their mother, though you're pretty sure she's in the chapel, on fire. You shove through the bodies, toward the inner wall, past the stables where the goats are gone, probably eaten, probably not recently, past the smoldering tower where someone's hung a banner upside down in panic. You reach the wall and see it, a hole, not huge, but big enough. One of the foundation seams has cracked inward from the digging, from the rot, from time. You don't know, but there's a gap now, and through that gap, they're coming, not in waves. Not yet, just a few, but that's enough. You recognize the banner, the black boar. You recognize the man at the front, Commander Rao, still smirking, still not sweating. You run, not away, up toward the nearest tower. The guards are shooting, fumbling arrows, some too panicked to aim. One slips and nearly drops his bow. You take it from him. Fire once. Mississippi fire again. Miss. You drop it. You're not a hero. You're barely an assistant cook. You run again. Through the barracks, where someone's trying to lock the door, but can't find the key. Through the chapel courtyard, now scorched and skeletal. You see Sister Alara, robes burned, face streaked with ash, dragging a child through the smoke. You grab the other arm. The child is alive. You run them both to the pantry vault, one of the last stone rooms still sealed. Stay, Alara says. Pray. Then she's gone again. You try to follow. She disappears into the smoke. Somewhere behind you, something collapses. A scream cut short. You reach the gate tower. It's abandoned. The lever that raises a portcullis is cracked. The wall above it is glowing. The fire's inside it now. You know this is it. This is the end of the siege. Not with a treaty. Not with surrender. With burning. You hear someone shout, "The inner door!" They've reached it. And they have. You duck behind a broken cart, watching as the Black Boar soldiers push through like ink seeping into water. One slips, another falls to an arrow, but more follow, and someone inside opens a door for them. Again, another traitor, or the same one. You don't care anymore. You run to the kitchens, instinctively, stupidly. Matla is there, alone, stirring a pot of nothing. She sees you, laughs once, bitter and full of soot. Always thought I'd die with a spoon in my hand. You grab her wrist. Come on. She hesitates, then grabs a knife. Fine, but I'm bringing my good pan. You find a back stairwell. It's still intact. For now, you flee up it, through corridors where fire hasn't reached yet, where bodies lie still and eyes stay open, where tapestries smolder and noble names melt to ash. You reach the battlements. Brina is there, bleeding, still fighting. She sees you, grins through a cracked tooth, and says, "Took you long enough." Then she collapses. You pull her back behind the crenellations. Matla slaps her awake. She glares at Matla. That pan's too heavy. Matla shrugs. So are you. You wait, breathing. Below, the courtyard is lost. Smoke chokes the windows. Fires leap from wall to wall. You see the Baron, finally, standing in the great hall doorway, robes torn, eyes wild. He raises his arms as if commanding the fire itself. And then the roof collapses. He disappears beneath it. Just like that. The end. You don't cheer. There's nothing to cheer for. You stay up on the wall until the sun rises, low and orange, as if embarrassed by what it sees. The Black Boar banner flies now. Over the keep. Over the kitchens. Over you. You're still breathing. For now. The smoke hasn't cleared, but the screaming has. You wake with ash on your tongue and stone dust in your hair. Your body aches like you fought in 10 battles. Except all you really did was survive one. Barely. You sit up beside a half-burned battlement. Matla snoring beside you with one hand still gripping her beloved iron pan. Brina is gone. At some point in the night, she slipped away, dragged herself down the stairwell. Maybe to find the wounded, maybe to die quietly. No one knows. The castle is quiet now. Wrong kind of quiet. You rise slowly, knees cracking like old wood, and look out over the walls. What's left isn't much. The great hall? Gone. Nothing but scorched beams and puddled glass. The chapel? Collapsed. The bell tower snapped in half, like the castle tried to kneel and couldn't finish. The kitchen? Still standing, somehow. Of course it is. Matla would haunt the place if it burned. The enemy camp is gone too. They've moved inside now. You see them. Soldiers with the Black Boar crest wandering the grounds, bored, already arguing over quarters and spoils. They're not celebrating. This wasn't a victory for them, just a job finished. You make your way down into the yard. Carefully, slowly. No one stops you. A man passes, nods. Another offers you water. Clean, cold, probably looted from the Baron's personal well. You drink, and it tastes like guilt. The bodies have already been piled. Neat rows near the outer wall, covered with blankets where possible, with ash where not. You see Goran, still in his guard tunic, a knife still in one hand. You see Sister Alara, too, her face calm, her eyes closed, a sprig of rosemary laid across her chest. You want to cry, but the tears don't come. There's nothing left to give. You find Harwin's ledger beside a shattered bench. Most pages are charred. The last few still legible. Barley, 0. Salt, 1/2 sack. Spoons, 12 two bent. That's all that remains of order. You walk the halls, or what's left of them. Everywhere, signs of lives abruptly interrupted. A child's drawing pinned to a wall. A doll, smoke blackened, sitting upright as if still waiting for a bedtime story. A banner half hung, showing the Baron's crest, its edges curled inward. You reach the lady's tower. It's locked, but someone's carved a message into the stone at eye level. I chose. No one knows where Avellini went. Some say she fled through the tunnels. Some say the enemy took her. Some swear they saw her riding away alone at dawn, her hair loose, a dagger at her back. Historians will argue for centuries. You keep walking. You find Brina in the stables, bandaging someone's leg. She looks up. You didn't die. Good. You smile weakly. She jerks her head toward the gate. They're letting people go. Civilians. Survivors. Anyone not holding a sword. You ask why. They don't need prisoners. Just the castle. And that's the truth of it. It wasn't personal. Not for them. But for you? You'll carry this place with you forever. You walk the perimeter one last time. You count the stones in the well. You smell what's left of the apple cellar. You touch the scar on the wall with a first rock hit. And then you pack your things, what little you have. A cloth-wrapped crust. A flint and knife. One page torn from Harwin's ledger. Blank. Except for your own handwriting. Just 3 words. I was here. You step through the gate. The sun is rising. Not warm. Not golden. Just new. You don't look back. Not because you don't care, but because looking back would break you. And you're not done walking yet. The road winds away from the castle like a scar. You follow it with blistered feet and a body that still expects shouting, smoke, stone. Every gust of wind feels like it should carry a warning horn. Every creak of tree branch makes your shoulders tense. But there's no horn now. No siege. Only the long stretch of after. You don't know where you're going. No one does. Others walk with you. Survivors. They don't speak much. A child clings to a doll with one eye. A baker's apprentice carries a broken rolling pin like it's still useful. A man with ink-stained fingers walks with eyes fixed on the horizon, muttering something about rebuilding his library. You pass a burn cart. A wheel still turning, slowly, even though there's no wind. The sky is wide again. Too wide. You remember what the stars looked like on the first night inside those walls. Cold pinpricks above the courtyard. Sharp and distant. You didn't notice the silence then. You just wanted food, a place to sleep, a wall between you, and whatever waited beyond. Now, you trade that wall for the sound of Matla's soup pot clanging or Sister Alara's dry humor, or even Brina's complaints about rookies with weak wrists. Funny how quickly hell becomes home when there's people in it. You pass the remains of a siege tower burned down before it could ever be used. Its skeleton leans drunkenly to one side. Moss already creeps across its base. Nature, unconcerned with sides, begins to take it back. Someone ahead of you limps and falls. No one rushes to help. Not out of cruelty. Out of exhaustion. You help anyway. Lift them. Keep walking. By dusk, you reach a ridge. Below it lies a valley filled with fog. Beyond that, fields, maybe, or another castle. Or nothing. You sit beside a tree and eat the last of your bread. The wind moves through the leaves like whispers from behind old stone. You realize, for the first time in days, that you're not hungry anymore. Not because you're full. Because something inside you has hardened. You lie back against the roots and stare at the sky. You survived. That matters, even if no one writes songs about it. even if you never tell anyone. Because now, when you hear the word siege, you don't think of weapons. You think of waiting, of counting torches, of bread crusts and fake fires, of names whispered behind doors and rats who don't blink, of laughter in the middle of terror, of a girl feeding chapel mice, of a boy humming while he cleaned the worst place in the castle, of people who died for rations, and others who lived for them. You think of the tower that vanished in the smoke, and the note you still carry, folded in your coat. I was here, and now the fires are out, the walls have cooled, the voices that once echoed through the stone halls have faded to silence. The siege is over, and you walk through it, step by weary step, alongside the flickering torchlight, the hunger pangs, the smoke-choked sky. You've made it to the other side. Let your breath settle. Let your body loosen. There's no need to keep watch now. No more ration lines or scraping soup pots or watching shadows for signs of betrayal. Just you and the quiet and the memory of a place that asked everything of you and still left a little behind. You did what you had to. You helped where you could. You learned to endure, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. Let that settle in your chest like warm embers, something gentle, something steady. Because even though the world outside may feel vast and unknown again, you carry the lessons of that stone prison with you. You know now what it means to hold the line. You know what loyalty looks like when it's rationed like bread. You know the sound of walls groaning before they fall. And more than anything, you know this. You were there. Now close your eyes. Let the night take the weight from your shoulders. Let the silence wrap around you like a soft cloak. Tomorrow will come, and with it, something new. But for now, just rest.